Hi guys, welcome to another session where we'll be talking about the basics of design thinking. Let's get started. What is design thinking? Design thinking is a method of problem solving that is both practical and creative. It is heavily based on design methods, patterns, and processes, hence the name. But it has evolved from a variety of fields such as architecture, engineering, and business. Design thinking can be applied to any field of problem solving, and it is in no way limited to design. In this class, we'll focus on Stanford Hassel Platinum Institute of Design five-stage design thinking model because it is world renowned for how it teaches and applies design thinking. The focus of design thinking is on the user. It places people first, attempting to understand their needs and devise effective solutions to meet those needs. It is what we call a solution-based problem-solving strategy. There are two types of design thinking: solution-based thinking and problem-based thinking. The goal of solution-based thinking is to come up with something constructive to address a specific problem. This is the polar opposite of problem-based thinking, which is concerned with obstacles and constraints. It is worth noting that we have design thinking principles and stages. The four principles of design thinking. The four principles of design thinking are: 1. The human rule, 2. The ambiguity rule, 3. The rule of redesign, 4. The tangibility rule. The human rule. It makes us realize that regardless of the context, all design activity is social in nature, and any social innovation will return us to the human-centric point of view. 2. The ambiguity rule. It makes us understand that ambiguity is unavoidable and cannot be eliminated or oversimplified. Experimenting at the limit of your knowledge and ability is essential for seeing things differently. 3. The rule of redesign. It makes us understand that while technology and social circumstances change and evolve, fundamental human needs do not. We essentially redesign the means of meeting these needs or achieving the desired outcomes. 4. The tangibility rule. It makes us understand that making ideas tangible in a form of prototypes allow designers to communicate them more effectively. Design thinking as a process for innovation. Let's talk about the five stages of design thinking. The design thinking stages are as follows: 1. Empathize, 2. Define, 3. Ideate, 4. Prototype, 5. Test. This process may also be thought of as a system of overlapping spaces rather than a sequence of orderly steps. The empathize stage puts us on the platform where we get to know the user and learn about their wants, needs, and goals. This entails observing and interacting with people in order to gain an understanding of their psychological and emotional states. The designer attempts to set aside the assumption during this phase in order to gain genuine insights about the user. 2. Define stage. This is the stage where we get to state the user's needs and problems, dedicated to defining the problem we have compiled from our findings during the empathize stage. Now we begin to make sense of them. What challenges and barriers are your users facing? What kind of pattern did you notice? What is the most pressing user issue that your team needs to address? By the end of the define phase, you should have a clear problem statement. The key here is to frame the problem in terms of your user. Rather than say we must, we say things must. After defining the problem, we move on to the third stage, which is the ideate stage. At this stage, we question assumptions and generate new ones. It's time to start thinking about potential solutions. Now that you have a solid understanding of your user and a clear problem statement. The third stage of the design thinking process is where creativity occurs, and it is crucial to emphasize that The ideation stage is a judgment-free zone. We think out of the box while understanding and reflecting on the problem our user is trying to solve. We then proceed to the prototype stage. A prototype is a scaled down version of your product. It is a simulation or a sample version that allows you to test your ideas and design before investing time and money in developing the product. The size and shape of prototypes vary, from simple paper models to fully functional interactive digital prototypes. The prototyping is followed by user testing. This is rarely the end of design thinking process. In reality, the result of the testing phase will frequently lead you back to the previous step, providing the insights you need to rephrase the original problem statement or generate new ideas you didn't consider previously. What is the purpose of design thinking? Let's look at why design thinking is important now that we have learned more about how it works. Using a design thinking approach has numerous advantages, whether in business, education, personal, or social contexts. First and foremost, design thinking fosters creativity and innovation. As humans, we rely on our knowledge and experiences to guide our actions. While patterns and habits are useful in some situations, they can limit our ability to solve problems. Instead of repeating the same tried and tested methods, design thinking encourages us to remove our blinkers and consider alternative solutions. The entire process promotes hypothesis testing and the exploration of new paths and ideas. What are the advantages of applying design thinking at work? As a designer, you have a significant impact on the product and experiences that your company brings to the market. Integrating design thinking into your process can add significant business value, ensuring that the products you design are not only desirable for customers, but also financially and resource-wise viable. With that in mind, consider some of the following primary advantages. Design thinking reduces time to market significantly. With emphasis on problem solving and finding viable solutions, design thinking can significantly reduce the amount of time spent on design development, especially when combined with lean agile methodologies. Design thinking saves money and increasing return on investment. Getting successful products to market faster saves the company money. Teams using IBM design thinking practice, for example, have calculated an return on investment of up to 300% as a result. Design thinking ensures a user-centric approach. This in turn increases users' engagement and customer retention over time. Design thinking encourages all stakeholders to think outside the box. By challenging assumptions and establishing beliefs, this fosters a culture of innovation that extends far beyond the design team. Design thinking can be used throughout the organization. The great thing about design thinking is that it is not just for designers. It encourages cross-team collaboration and group thinking. It can also be applied to almost any team in any industry. Design thinking as a process of designing. Design thinking can be applied as an adoption strategy in solving wicked problems. In planning and policy, a wicked problem is one that is difficult or impossible to solve because of its incomplete, contradictory, and changing requirements that are frequently difficult to recognize. It refers to an unfixable idea or problem with no single solution, and wicked refers to resistance to resolution rather than evil. Another definition is a socially complex problem with no determinable stopping point. In addition, because of complex interdependencies, attempting to solve one aspect of a wicked problem may reveal or create new issues. Design thinking can be applied as an adoption strategy in problem framing. Rather than accepting the problem as it is, designers investigate it and its context and may reinterpret or restructure it in order to arrive at a particular framing of the problem that suggests a path to a solution. Design thinking can be applied as an adoption strategy in solution focused thinking. Brian Lawson discovered that architects use solution focused cognitive strategies as opposed to scientists' problem focused strategies. Design thinking can be applied as an adoption strategy in adaptive reasoning. When developing new design proposals, designers must infer possible solutions from available problem information, personal experience, and the use of non-deductive models of thinking, such as analogies. Design thinking can be applied as an adaptive strategy in co-evolution of problem and solution. In a process of problem and solution co-evolution, the designer's attention typically alternates between their understanding of the problematic context and their ideas for a solution during the design process. New solution ideas can spark more solution ideas by providing a more in-depth or alternative understanding of the problematic context. Design thinking can be applied as an adoption strategy in representation and modeling. In order to translate abstract requirements into concrete objects, designers typically communicate primarily in visual or object languages. Traditional sketches and drawing, as well as computer models and physical prototypes, are examples of these languages. The use of representation and models is closely linked to design thinking features, such as generation and exploration of tentative solution concepts, identifying what needs to be known about developing concepts, and recognizing emergent features and properties within the representation. Use cases of design thinking adoption in businesses. Historically, designers tend to be involved only in the later part of the process of a new product development, focusing their attention on the aesthetics and functionality of products. Many businesses and other organizations now realize the utility of embedding design as a productive asset throughout organizational policies and practices. And design thinking has been used to help many different types of businesses and social organizations to be more constructive and innovative. In the 2000s, there was a significant growth of interest in design thinking as a catalyst for gaining competitive advantages within business. Designers bring their methods into business, either by taking part themselves from the earliest stages of product and services development process, or by training others to use design methods and to build innovative thinking capabilities within organizations. Let's go over some real application of design thinking strategies. Although many companies have used design thinking successfully, Netflix has repeatedly used it to become an industry giant. During the company's early days, its main competitor, Blockbuster, required customers to drive to physical locations to rent DVDs. The process was the same for returns, which was a major source of frustration for many. With a subscription model, Netflix eliminated the inconvenience by delivering DVDs directly into the customers' homes. While this changed the movie industry, Netflix's true success has come from its innovation over the years. To stay ahead of the curve, the company, for example, created an on demand streaming service when it realized DVDs were becoming obsolete. Inadvertently, this also eliminated the inconvenience of having to wait for DVDs. Following that, in 2001, Netflix broadened its design thinking in response for customer demand for original, provocative content not available on traditional networks. It later improved the user experience by incorporating short thrillers into its interface in 2016. Each of Netflix's major updates was motivated by a strong design thinking process and in response to customer needs. Airbnb design thinking adoption strategy. Airbnb, another household name, began by earning only about $200 per week. After some observation, its founders realized that the advertising pictures hosted were not of high quality, which often discouraged customers from renting rooms. The founders spent time traveling to each location, imaging what users look for in a temporary place to stay. In order to empathize with customers, what is their solution? Purchase a high quality camera and photograph what customers want to see based on their travel observations. For example, showing every room rather than just a few, mentioning special features such as a hot tub or a pool in the description, emphasizing the neighborhood or areas nearby. The end result, a week, A&B revenue has increased. Rather than focusing on growing their audience, A&B founders use design thinking to determine why their current audience was not using their services. Instead of focusing on traditional business values like scalability, they realize that in order to solve business problems, they need to simply put themselves in the shoes of the users. Conclusion. While these examples demonstrate the type of success that design thinking can produce, before incorporating it into your business model, you must first learn how to practice and apply it. Hence are some alternatives. Consider the big picture. The solutions to the preceding examples are obvious. However, take a big step back and consider how each company considered the perspective of its customer base and identify areas where empathy could be used. 2. Consider different options. You can try this with the examples above. Consider the problem that each company was confronted with, as well as the alternative solution that could have been tried. This allows you to practice both empathy and addition. Remember to join the Q&A sessions on Discord. If you are not on the server, join with the link below. Ensure you come along with your questions. Thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe and most importantly, remember to invite your friends to study along with us.